My name is Abigail, and I'm 28 years old. I never thought a single envelope could change my entire understanding of family. But there I was, sitting in a sterile conference room, watching my father's face turn pale as the lawyer handed me a sealed letter with my grandmother's handwriting on it. The moment that changed everything happened 3 months ago. My beloved grandmother Rose had passed away after a brief illness. She was 92 and had lived a full, beautiful life. But what came after her funeral would shake the very foundation of everything I believed about my family. If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Before I tell you about this life-changing decision, hit like and subscribe to hear more real stories about family loyalty and betrayal that might just change how you see your own relationships. The will reading was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in downtown Portland. I remember the rain tapping against the tall windows of the law office. The smell of old leather and coffee filled the air. My stomach churned with grief and anxiety as I sat between my younger sister Emma and my cousin Jake. My father David sat across from us, his jaw tight and eyes cold. Next to him was my stepmother Patricia, her manicured fingers drumming impatiently on the polished table. They had driven up from California specifically for this meeting. Something about their urgency felt wrong to me. The lawyer, Mr. Henderson, was a kind elderly man with silver hair and gentle eyes. He had known my grandmother for over 20 years. As he began reading the will, his voice was steady and professional. But I noticed how he kept glancing at me with what looked like concern. Grandma Rose had always been my safe harbor. When my parents divorced when I was 12, she was the one who held me while I cried. When my father remarried Patricia and seemed to forget I existed, Grandma Rose made sure I knew I was loved. Her small house by the lake became my sanctuary during high school and college. To my granddaughter Abigail, Mr. Henderson read, I leave my lake house and all its contents along with 50% of my remaining estate. The room went silent. I felt my heart racing as the words sank in. Emma was left 25%, and various smaller amounts went to other family members. That's when my father exploded. This is ridiculous, he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. Abigail doesn't deserve that much. She barely visited in the last few years. I'm the son. I should inherit the house. His words cut deep because they weren't true. I had visited Grandma Rose every month, sometimes more. I had helped her with groceries, doctor appointments, and household repairs. But my father had always been skilled at rewriting history to suit his narrative. Patricia nodded vigorously. David's right. This will must be contested. Abigail probably manipulated a sick old woman. Her accusation hung in the air like poison. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. Actually, there's one more thing. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a cream-colored envelope with my name written in Grandma Rose's careful script. Mrs. Morrison specifically requested that Abigail receive this letter immediately after the will reading. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. The paper felt thick and expensive. I could see several pages inside. Should I read it now? I asked quietly. She insisted you read it here, in front of everyone, Mr. Henderson replied. His expression was unreadable, but there was something protective in his voice. I carefully opened the envelope, aware that everyone was watching me. As I unfolded the pages, I recognized my grandmother's beautiful handwriting immediately. The first line made my breath catch in my throat. My dearest Abigail, if you're reading this, then David is probably making a scene about the will. Even from beyond, my grandmother knew exactly who my father was. I glanced up to see him and Patricia whispering urgently to each other. Emma was watching me with wide, curious eyes. Jake looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to be anywhere else. "What does it say?" my father demanded impatiently. "Read it out loud." Something in his tone made me pause. There was desperation there, mixed with anger. I had learned over the years to trust my instincts about people's motivations. Right now, every instinct was screaming that my father was hiding something. I looked at Mr. Henderson, who nodded encouragingly. "Take your time, dear. Your grandmother's final words deserve to be heard properly." As I prepared to read the letter that would change everything, I had no idea that my grandmother had been protecting me in ways I never imagined. The truth was about to surface, and it would reveal just how deep family betrayal could go. To understand what happened next, I need to take you back to the beginning. My childhood was like living in two completely different worlds. There was the world with my mom Sarah and Grandma Rose, filled with warmth, laughter, and unconditional love. Then there was the world with my dad David, where affection came with conditions and criticism was disguised as concern. My parents divorced when I was 12 and Emma was 8. Dad remarried Patricia within 6 months, and suddenly we became weekend visitors in our own father's life. Patricia was 28 when she married my 42-year-old father. She was beautiful, ambitious, and had no patience for 2 grieving daughters who reminded her that she wasn't Dad's first choice. Emma handled the transition differently than I did. She was younger and more adaptable. She learned to charm Patricia with compliments and never challenged Dad's new rules. I, on the other hand, was stubborn and emotional. I questioned why we couldn't have family dinners anymore. I asked why Patricia got to redecorate our rooms without asking us. I wondered aloud why Dad seemed happier when we weren't around. These questions made me the problem child. Dad started saying things like, "Abigail's being difficult again," or, "Your sister needs attitude adjustment." Patricia would smile sweetly and suggest that maybe I needed counseling. They painted me as the troubled teenager who couldn't accept change. Grandma Rose saw right through it all. She would pick me up for weekend visits when Dad and Patricia went on their frequent couples trips. Her lake house became my refuge. We would sit on the old wooden dock, feeding ducks and talking about everything. She never told me my feelings were wrong or that I needed to be more grateful. "Sweetheart," she would say, "some people can only love others when it benefits them somehow. Your father isn't a bad man, but he's selfish. Don't let his limitations define your worth." Her words were like medicine to my wounded heart. My relationship with Emma became complicated during these years. She received praise and gifts from Dad and Patricia because she was compliant. I watched my little sister slowly distance herself from me to gain their approval. It broke my heart, but I understood her choice. She was just trying to survive in an environment that punished authenticity. My cousin Jake was Dad's brother's son. He was 3 years older than me and had grown up wealthy and entitled. His father, Uncle Mark, was Dad's business partner in their construction company. Jake had always been the golden child of the extended family, handsome, charming, and completely self-centered. During family gatherings, I noticed how the adults favored Jake. He could do no wrong, while Emma and I were constantly reminded to be more like him. Jake seemed to enjoy this dynamic. He would make subtle digs at our appearance or achievements, always with a smile so no one else noticed his cruelty. Grandma Rose was different with all of us, though. She treated Emma and me equally, despite our different personalities. She saw through Jake's charm and never gave him special treatment. "Character matters more than charisma," she would tell me when Jake would show off his latest expensive gift from his parents. The family business was another source of tension. Dad and Uncle Mark had built Morrison Construction into a successful company over 20 years. Dad always talked about keeping the business in the family, but when I expressed interest in construction management during college, he laughed it off. "That's not women's work, Abigail. You should focus on something more suitable." Jake, however, was automatically given a management position right out of college, despite having no real experience or passion for construction. The inequality was glaring, but pointing it out only made me seem jealous and bitter in everyone's eyes. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like your thoughts and feelings don't matter because they don't fit the narrative others have created? That was my reality for years. I learned to swallow my opinions and smile through gatherings where I felt like an outsider. College gave me some distance and perspective. I studied business administration and graduated with honors. I found work at a marketing firm in Seattle and started building an independent life. But family events still triggered those old feelings of inadequacy and resentment. Grandma Rose remained my constant through all of this. We talked every week, and I visited her monthly. She celebrated my achievements when others ignored them. She listened to my relationship struggles without judgment. She was the grandmother who remembered my favorite foods and asked about my dreams. Looking back now, I realize she was watching everything. She saw how Dad treated me differently than Emma. She witnessed Jake's entitled behavior and Patricia's subtle manipulations. She was gathering information and making plans that would soon turn my world upside down. As I sat in that conference, room holding Grandma Rose's letter, I had no idea that the next few minutes would unravel 20 years of family lies. I began reading aloud, my voice shaky with emotion. My dearest Abigail, if you're reading this, then David is probably making a scene about the will. He always did have trouble accepting consequences for his actions. There are things you need to know about your family, sweetheart. Things I should have told you years ago. I paused and looked around the room. Dad's face had gone completely white. Patricia was gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles showed. Emma looked confused and worried. Jake was suddenly very interested in his phone. Something was definitely wrong here. The letter continued. 23 years ago, your father made some poor business decisions. He took out loans against the family construction company without telling your Uncle Mark. When those investments failed, David was facing bankruptcy and criminal charges for fraud. My heart stopped. I looked at my father, searching his face for denial. Instead, I saw guilt and panic. Abigail, stop reading, he said quietly. This is private family business. But Mr. Henderson nodded for me to continue. Your grandmother specifically wanted this read aloud. She was very clear about that. I kept reading. I used my life savings to pay off David's debts and save the company. It was nearly $400,000, Abigail. Money I had planned to leave to you and Emma. Your father promised to pay me back with interest. He signed legal documents agreeing to this. The room was dead silent except for the rain still pattering against the windows. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. $400,000 was an enormous sum, especially 23 years ago. He never paid me back a single penny. Instead, he divorced your mother and married Patricia, using the money he saved to buy her expensive gifts and take lavish vacations. When I confronted him about repaying the loan, he told me to get in line because he had other priorities. Now, Emma gasped softly. Jake had stopped pretending to use his phone and was staring at Dad with shock. Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. If you're watching this and have ever discovered a family secret that changed everything, please share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else who's dealing with betrayal. The letter went on. But David made one critical mistake. He never paid attention to the legal documents I had him sign. What he thought was a simple loan agreement was actually a lien against his portion of your great-grandfather's estate. The lake house, the land it sits on, and several other properties were never legally his to inherit. I stopped reading and stared at the page. This couldn't be real. Mr. Henderson was nodding grimly as if he had been expecting this revelation. "That's impossible," Dad sputtered. "I've been paying taxes on that property for decades." Mr. Henderson opened another file folder. "Actually, David, your mother has been paying those taxes. She's been covering all the expenses related to the estate property since 1999. We have all the receipts and bank records." The magnitude of what I was learning hit me like a physical blow. My grandmother hadn't just been generous with her will. She had been reclaiming what was rightfully hers all along. Properties that my father had been claiming ownership of for over 20 years were never actually his. Patricia suddenly spoke up, her voice sharp with anger. "This is ridiculous. You can't just change ownership of properties after all these years. We've made improvements to that lake house. We have rights." "What improvements?" Emma asked quietly. It was the first thing she had said since we arrived. "We barely ever got to use the lake house. Dad said it was too much trouble to maintain." I realized Emma was right. Every time we had asked to spend a weekend at the lake house, Dad had excuses. It needed repairs, or he was too busy, or Patricia didn't want to deal with the mosquitoes. Meanwhile, Grandma Rose lived there part-time and kept it in perfect condition. The letter revealed more. "I've also been tracking your father's business. Finances through a private investigator I hired 3 years ago. Jake has been embezzling money from Morrison Construction. Small amounts at first, but increasingly larger sums over the past 18 months. Jake shot to his feet so quickly, his chair fell backward. "That's a lie. I've never stolen anything from the company." Mr. Henderson pulled out another folder, this one thick with documents. "We have bank records, Jake. Unauthorized transfers, falsified invoices, payments to shell companies you created. Your grandmother documented everything." The room erupted in chaos. Dad was shouting at Mr. Henderson about statute of limitations. Patricia was demanding to see the bank records. Jake was denying everything while backing toward the door. Emma was crying quietly, overwhelmed by the revelations. I sat in the middle of it all, still holding Grandma Rose's letter. There were 3 more pages left to read. "Enough!" I shouted, surprising everyone, including myself. The room fell silent. I had spent years being the quiet one, the peacekeeper, the daughter who swallowed her words to keep family gatherings civil. But not today. Today, my grandmother had given me a voice. "I'm going to finish reading this letter," I said firmly, my voice steadier than I felt. "And everyone is going to sit down and listen." Dad opened his mouth to argue, but Mr. Henderson held up his hand. "Abigail is right. This is a legal proceeding, and Mrs. Morrison's final wishes must be honored completely." I continued reading. "Abigail, I know this is overwhelming, but there's more you need to understand. Your father has been telling people for years that you're irresponsible with money. He's used this excuse to exclude you from family business decisions and inheritance discussions." My chest tightened. This was true. At every family gathering, Dad would make comments about my expensive lifestyle or question my financial choices. He criticized my apartment, my car, even my grocery spending. I had started to believe maybe I was bad with money. "The truth is, sweetheart, you're the most financially responsible person in this family. I've watched you budget carefully, save, consistently, and make smart decisions even when others mocked you for being cheap. Meanwhile, your father has been living beyond his means for decades." The letter detailed Dad's spending habits, expensive cars, luxury vacations, Patricia's shopping sprees, all funded by money that should have been repaid to Grandma Rose years ago. "Patricia doesn't know about the loan," the letter continued. "Your father told her the money came from construction profits. She's been spending money that was stolen from your inheritance." Patricia's face went ashen. "David, what is she talking about? What loan?" For the first time in my life, I saw my father look truly scared. His usual confident demeanor crumbled as he realized the web of lies was unraveling. Patricia, I can explain. It wasn't stealing. It was a family loan. These things are complicated. $400,000, David, Patricia shrieked. You borrowed $400,000 and never told me? We could have been living within our means instead of running up credit card debt. The argument that erupted between Dad and Patricia was vicious. Years of hidden resentments poured out. She accused him of financial deception. He blamed her for expensive tastes. They were so focused on each other, they seemed to forget the rest. Of us were there. Jake tried to slip out during the chaos, but Mr. Henderson blocked his path. You need to stay, Jake. There are criminal implications to discuss. Emma moved closer to me, tears streaming down her face. Abigail, I'm so sorry. I knew something was wrong with how Dad treated you, but I was too scared to say anything. I put my arm around my sister, feeling protective of her in a way I hadn't since we were children. It's not your fault, Em. We were just kids trying to survive. The final pages of Grandma Rose's letter contained specific instructions. I've arranged for Mr. Henderson to handle all legal proceedings. The embezzled funds will be recovered through civil and criminal courts. The property transfers will be finalized within 30 days. Most importantly, Abigail, I want you to know that none of this is about revenge. Her words brought tears to my eyes. This is about justice. It's about ensuring that kindness and integrity are rewarded, not punished. You have spent your adult life being told you're not good enough, not responsible enough, not worthy enough to be included in family decisions. These lies end today. Dad had stopped arguing with Patricia and was staring at me with something that looked like desperation. Abigail, please, I'm your father. We can work this out privately. Don't let lawyers and old grudges destroy our family. The manipulation was so familiar it made me feel sick. For years, he had used guilt and family loyalty to control my responses to his behavior. But Grandma Rose's letter had given me clarity and strength. Dad, you destroyed our family years ago, I said quietly. You chose money and image over honesty and love. You taught Emma and me that we had to earn your affection by being convenient and agreeable. That's not what family means. I stood up, still holding the letter. Mr. Henderson, what do I need to do to proceed with my grandmother's wishes? Patricia was crying now, whether from anger or sadness I couldn't tell. Jake was frantically texting someone, probably Uncle Mark. Emma was looking at me with something I hadn't seen from her in years. Respect. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly free. Free from the need to prove my worth to people who had already decided I wasn't enough. Free from family obligations that were really just emotional manipulation. Free to honor the woman who had loved me unconditionally. The confrontation was far from over, but I was no longer afraid of it. The weeks following that devastating will, reading were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, family drama, and unexpected revelations. Mr. Henderson moved quickly to secure all the properties and assets mentioned in Grandma Rose's will. Jake was arrested within 48 hours as the evidence of embezzlement was overwhelming. Emma made the difficult decision to move in with me temporarily while the family chaos settled. Living together again reminded us of how close we used to be before divorce and remarriage tore us apart. We spent long evenings talking through our childhood, processing the emotional damage we had both endured. I always knew Dad favored other people over us, Emma admitted one night as we sat in my small apartment kitchen. But I thought if I was perfect enough, maybe he would love me the way Grandma Rose did. Her words broke my heart because I recognized the same desperate need for approval that had driven so many of my own choices. We were both adults who had spent years chasing validation from someone incapable of giving it authentically. Patricia filed for divorce within a month. The financial deception had shattered whatever love existed between them. She also sued Dad for half of everything, not realizing that most of his assets were built on borrowed money and lies. Their battle became bitter and public, providing the whole town with gossip for months. Dad tried repeatedly to contact me, alternating between angry demands that I fix this mess and tearful apologies claiming he never meant to hurt anyone. I blocked his calls after the third voicemail where he blamed Grandma Rose for manipulating me against him from beyond the grave. Have you ever had to cut contact with a family member for your own well-being? It's one of the hardest decisions anyone can make, and I'd love to hear how you handled it in the comments below. Uncle Mark was devastated by Jake's embezzlement and his brother's deception. He offered to buy back the construction company to remove it from our family entirely. The business had been built on lies and theft, and he wanted to start fresh with honest employees and clean books. The legal process took 6 months to fully resolve. Jake pleaded guilty to embezzlement and fraud, receiving 2 years in prison and 5 years of probation. He was ordered to pay full restitution, though most of the money was already gone, spent on gambling and expensive cars. Dad lost everything: the house, the cars, his reputation in the community. He moved to another state, supposedly to start over, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was telling people there that his ungrateful daughters had destroyed his life over money. Meanwhile, my life was transforming in ways I never expected. The lake house became my sanctuary, just as it had been during childhood. I took a leave of absence from my marketing job and spent 3 months there, processing everything that had happened and planning my future. 1 year later, I'm sitting in Grandma Rose's favorite spot on the dock, watching the sunset paint the water gold and pink. The house has become a retreat center for women dealing with family trauma and relationship challenges. Emma helps me run weekend workshops on boundaries, self-worth, and healing from emotional abuse. If you're struggling with difficult family relationships, please like this video and subscribe for more content about healing and personal growth. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard. The property inheritance enabled me to start a nonprofit organization focused on helping women recognize and escape manipulative family dynamics. We provide counseling, legal resources, and temporary housing for those who need to distance themselves from toxic relatives. Emma finished her teaching degree and now works with children from broken homes. She has a natural ability to recognize signs of emotional neglect and manipulation in young people. Our shared experiences, painful as they were, gave us insights that help others. I've learned that family isn't just about blood relationships. It's about people who show up consistently, who celebrate your successes without jealousy, and who support you through failures without judgment. My chosen family includes Emma, several close friends, and the women who participate in our retreat programs. Patricia reached out to me 6 months ago, wanting to apologize for her role in the family dysfunction. She admitted that she had known something was wrong with Dad's finances, but chose to ignore the signs because she enjoyed the lifestyle. We had coffee once, but I realized I didn't need her apology to heal. I had already forgiven her for my own peace of mind. The most surprising development has been reconnecting with my mother's family. During the years of Dad's manipulation, he had convinced me that Mom's relatives thought I was difficult and unwelcoming. The truth was that he had been discouraging contact to maintain control over our narrative. My maternal grandmother, who I barely knew, reached out after hearing about Grandma Rose's death. She shared stories about my mother's childhood and explained how proud she was of the woman I had become. Having grandparents who actually want to know me has been healing in unexpected ways. As I finish telling you this story, I want you to know that healing from family betrayal isn't a straight line. There are days when I still feel angry about the years of manipulation and lies. There are moments when I question whether I made the right choices, but mostly, I feel grateful. I'm grateful for Grandma Rose's courage in documenting the truth and ensuring justice prevailed. I'm grateful for the financial security that allows me to help other women escape toxic family situations. Most of all, I'm grateful for the clarity that came from finally seeing my family dynamics without the fog of guilt and obligation. The retreat center has helped over 200 women in the past year. Each story is different, but the themes remain consistent. Manipulation disguised as love. Financial control used to maintain power. Children taught that their worth depends on others' approval. These patterns repeat across generations until someone finds the strength to break them. Emma and I talk often about what we would tell our younger selves. We would say that feeling invisible in your own family isn't normal. That being called difficult for having opinions or boundaries is manipulation. That love shouldn't require you to minimize yourself, to make others comfortable. If you're watching this video and recognize yourself in my story, I want you to know you're not alone. Your feelings are valid, even if others have convinced you they're not. Your worth isn't determined by family members who can only love you conditionally. Please share in the comments what moment in this story resonated most with you. Did you see your own family dynamics reflected in mine? Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was lying to you for years? The relationship with my father remains complicated. He has never taken real responsibility for his actions or acknowledged the pain he caused. Recently, he sent Emma a birthday card with a note saying he hopes we can move past this unpleasantness and be a family again. His language reveals everything. Calling embezzlement, fraud, and decades of emotional manipulation unpleasantness shows he still doesn't understand the magnitude of what he did. Moving past something requires accountability and genuine remorse, neither of which he has shown. Emma and I have different approaches to this. She's more open to the possibility of reconciliation someday. I've accepted that my father may never change, and I've found peace with that reality. Both approaches are valid. Healing looks different for everyone. The nonprofit work has taught me that family trauma often creates unexpected gifts. Survivors develop heightened intuition about people's motivations. We become excellent at recognizing manipulation tactics. We learn to trust our instincts when something feels wrong, even if we can't immediately identify why. These skills have made me a better friend, partner, and advocate. I can spot emotional manipulation from across a room now. I help other women trust their gut feelings when family members dismiss their concerns. We validate each other's experiences in ways our families never did. If this story has touched you, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share resources about healing from family trauma, setting healthy boundaries, and building chosen families that actually support your growth. The lake house where I'm recording this has become a symbol of everything Grandma Rose represented. Honesty, integrity, and unconditional love. She could have taken her secrets to the grave and left us to figure out Dad's lies on our own. Instead, she chose to arm us with truth and resources to build better lives. I keep her photo on the mantle, surrounded by pictures from our retreat weekends. Women laughing together, supporting each other, celebrating small victories in their healing journeys. This is the family legacy she wanted to create. Not wealth passed down through blood, but wisdom shared between survivors. What would you do if you discovered your family had been lying to you for decades? How do you think you would handle learning that someone you trusted had been stealing from you? Share your thoughts below, because your perspective might help someone else facing similar challenges. As the sun sets over the lake tonight, I'm reminded that endings can be beginnings. The end of my relationship with Dad marked the beginning of authentic family connections. The end of financial manipulation became the start of helping others achieve economic independence. The end of accepting lies became the foundation for a life built on truth. Your story doesn't have to be defined by what others have done to you. You have the power to write new chapters, create better boundaries, and choose people who deserve access to your heart. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to accept less than you deserve. Thank you for watching, for sharing your stories, and for being part of this community of survivors and thrivers. Remember, you are worthy of love that doesn't come with conditions. You deserve relationships that celebrate who you are, not who others want you to be. Until next time, keep choosing truth over comfort and healing over hiding.